I don't know too many people who literally leave everything behind because they want to be a better dad. But that's literally what he did. He recognised that there was a lack in himself and has literally devoted his life to being better as a husband and as a father.
Welcome to Separate Bathrooms. I'm Brahe-Daddo.
Wow, you're like an ABC radio commentator, just all laid back.
Schmick. You know, I've been listening
sounds so
to...
easy going.
You know what I've been listening to? There's this guy on Smooth FM from 6 till 9, I think every night.
That would be Byron.
Isn't that you? I thought that's you.
It's not me, honey. I'm from 9. You know I'm out from 9 till midnight. She's trying to give me a compliment, and I appreciate that. I love that about you. You've just messed up the time.
Take
that's
2.
all.
There's this guy.
No.
There's this guy on.
Byron is great.
He is great. And is the guy that comes on after him. Oh, dang.
It's okay. It's all right.
It's all right. I'm in bed by that time.
I
But
know.
anyway, I have been listening to you, so I'm getting smoother. Right? I don't know. Anyway, speaking of
Slow
smooth.
is fast. Fast is slow.
Speaking of smooth,
Yeah.
we have a fabulous couple in today. We're super excited to speak to both of these people.
Yes.
Married couple again.
Talking about parenting and relationships. They're super qualified. They've been married for 25 years, or 23 years actually. They'll be married for 50, these two. They're parents to 6 daughters, one of which is married herself. And they were married quite young. He was 22 and she was 19.
He is well known as a parenting expert. And we'll dive into that and find out exactly how he became a parenting expert. She is the rock. And not as in Dwayne Johnson, but she is the rock in the family. And dare we say, the inspiration for many other things. They say that happy families don't just happen. I love that quote.
Let's give them names and get to know them better. Please welcome Dr. Justin and Kylie Coulson. Hi, guys.
Hey.
So good to be with you.
You look fabulous across this Zoom link, you two.
Well, we knew that we had to make ourselves look pretty special because we're hanging out with the guy that every girl wanted to be associated with when I was growing up and the girl that every guy wanted to marry when I was growing up. So we've done our best.
You've done incredibly well. Incredibly well. Thank you so much for joining us in our separate bathrooms today. We have a lot to jump into for both of you because you've both got incredible insights, we feel, and this is a relationship podcast, and you, Justin, actually have a website, successful website called happyfamilies.com, and Kylie, you are the mother of 6 daughters and the woman behind the man, beside the man, in front of the man, as we've talked about before.
With the man.
But we also want to hear about, of course, about you, Kylie, as well. You know, what's your participation in all of this as well? So let's just dive in. What's our first question for this?
Well, I just wanted to know, you guys were married quite young. How long did you date for?
Well, I guess it depends how you define date.
Yeah, we met at Christmas time at a convention aligned with a church, and we kind of got to know each other at that convention. And then we had a date, a date one evening, followed by another date the next day in January. Then in March at Easter we caught up, and 8 days later we were engaged.
8 days.
They've beaten us, honey.
They did.
They've beaten us.
We were like 3 weeks.
No, we weren't 3 weeks. It's getting shorter all the time. It's 2.5 months, honey.
What am I getting confused
Exaggeration.
about?
I don't know.
Oh, just getting
Who
old.
else did you get engaged to? I'm not sure.
That was the other one, wasn't it? Right.
But mate, as I said in the intro, you were 22.
comes
So
out.
I'm just gonna let that one slide straight through to the keeper, Justin. When you were 22, as I said in the intro. Kylie, you were 19. That was young. And Justin, you're now the founder of this highly successful website. You've got happyfamilies.com. You've recorded close to 300 podcasts, as far as I can see, and then they're all about raising happy families. Were you always a parenting expert?
No. Because of the nature of this conversation and because we've listened to your podcast and we really love the way you honour relationships, on this show. Maybe I can share how I got into this, and that will sort of colour in the very thin skeleton that we've got to work with. When I was working in Brisbane at one of the major stations, we had our first 2 kids. And I've taken a big breath because I hate telling this story. It's a really painful story to tell. Kylie left me one Saturday afternoon. I'd been out late the night before because, radio DJ, doing the whatever it was that I had to do, the publicity thing Friday night somewhere. I'd had about 3 hours sleep. I'd been up and in the studio by 5:30 the next morning, done my 6 to midday gig. Saturday afternoon, I'm absolutely wrecked. And Kylie says to me, I've got to go out. I'm going to leave the kids with you. And I'm kind of like, I'm tired. I don't have the capacity to look after them. I'm an absolute wreck. And Kylie basically says, no, the baby's just gone down and the 3-year-old is due for her nap anytime in the next sort of half hour or so. You put her down, you have your nap, I'll be back before they wake up and we can have a nice night. So I thought, you beauty, that sounds good. But I don't know if you've noticed that sometimes 3-year-olds feel like they're too big for their daytime nap.
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of what happened. Our 3-year-old said, I don't want to go to sleep. And I was so exhausted. And you know this, like when you're tired, you just cannot be at your best. And I got into this big power struggle with her that escalated. And soon I was screaming at her and threatening her and calling her names, you little brat, go to sleep. And I don't know about you, but I don't know anyone that listens to their dad call them a little brat and threatens them and tells them to go to sleep and then suddenly goes, good point, I'm tireder than I thought, I'll have a nap now, thanks for being so convincing.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where, it just escalated and I yelled at her and I picked her up and I squeezed her and I whacked a bum and I threw her onto a bed and locked her in a room and just treated her just awfully. Even now, I still get very just so disappointed in myself for the way that I treated her, and I obviously I didn't go to sleep that afternoon. She did. She fell asleep crying on the floor behind the door. But I walked into the backyard that afternoon, and once she'd gone to sleep, and I remember thinking, it's not my fault. She made me do it. And then I realised immediately how ridiculous that statement was, how untrue that was. She's a toddler, she's behaving like one. I'm an adult, I'm not behaving like one. And so when Kylie walked in the door, saw that I was awake, we had a conversation and I explained what had happened and how badly I'd behaved. And I said, I need to do something about this. But I wasn't so keen on going and doing therapy. And so instead I signed up for... I quit my radio career. I went back to school, and 8.5 years of full-time study later, with a mortgage and 2 kids and then 3 kids and then 4 kids and then 5 kids. I'd gotten a TAFE qual. I'd gotten my first class honours psychology science degree and a PhD in psychology. And I did it all basically because I wanted to be a better dad.
Wow, what a turning point.
Brave.
Do you remember that moment, Kylie?
Yeah.
What was your words to Justin at that time?
I said something like, I'm not a real good dad, am I? And Kylie said, no, and come to think of it, you're not much of a husband either. I was failing. Yeah. I was an absolute... I think that would you say disaster is overstating it? Or do you think that's a reasonable assessment?
I think the challenge is that when you get married, you're so in love and you think that you have got all the answers and you think that your love is going to be enough to carry you through. And when you hit these moments in time where you recognise that you're either not aligned or you're not on the same page, you kind of question a lot of things. And we both grew up in very different parenting styled homes. And I had always, from a very little girl, I didn't want to do anything else in life except for being a wife and a mother. That was my dream. Yeah. Becoming a mum was just the next step in my life. I found my Prince Charming. We got married and I wanted to be a mum. And I thought I had all the answers because being a mum was just so innate.
Right. That's what you wanted. That's what you dreamed of. So,
and I have always been a nurturer as well. So those kind of qualities are very innate within me. And so whenever we would have challenges, I'd kind of be like bewildered that he just didn't know how to do things. It didn't come naturally to him. He didn't. he didn't see the world the way I did. And so those first few years of parenting were really challenging for both of us for totally different reasons.
And it sounds like not only parenting, but relationship-wise too as well. I mean, were you... They're often what Cam and I fight about the most is when he gets angry at the children, and I don't think they deserve to be gotten angry at. That's what we fight about.
That first year of marriage before children came along was absolute bliss. We
Right.
literally had, kind of two major arguments, and each of us had a moment where we just kind of lost the plot. But
we had 18 months of heaven, didn't we?
Yeah, just had a beautiful start. And then the children come along, and yeah, it really makes you question things. And so what you said about, seeing the way he would respond to children really affected me, because your mama bear comes out.
Yeah.
And I think it's more so as a mum as opposed to being a dad. The mama bear comes out and you just want to protect your little ones.
And I find it difficult too, because everything, and I'm sure this is what you hear, Justin, probably what you teach too, is that you have to be on the same page. You have to be on the same page. And I'm like, I'm not on the same page as you, honey. I don't agree with why you're getting so mad at them. I'm not mad at them, but you are. So it's that's something that comes up in conflict for us, doesn't it?
As you said, Kylie, when you are parented differently, like you said, you two are parented differently. Alison and I were parented very differently.
Yeah.
And so when you're confronted with these little souls who are part of you and your emotions get activated, and suddenly that primary teaching of how you were parented gets activated as well. But unless you've been conscious about how you want to parent, that early training and teaching of how you were parented gets activated. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, totally. And I think the reality is over time, as Justin started to study and learn, his whole journey was wholeheartedly about being a better spouse and a better parent. And so as he became more educated and learnt more about the science behind behaviour in general and family well-being, the tables turned very quickly. And all of a sudden, all of the things that we had or I had believed were the right way to do things were being questioned. And so I then had to take counsel from him. Being the dad who was never, not home very much. And all of a sudden he had all of these answers and I didn't want to listen.
Good answers, weren't they?
I didn't want to listen. And the reality is it took us probably about 5 years through that process before I fully came on board.
And the story behind that is really quite compelling. So I'm learning how to become a better parent. I'm learning psychology, but I'm not actually doing much of it at home. Kylie's doing it all, raising the family, while I'm doing the schoolwork and the financial work. And I remember one night I got back from uni. It would have probably been 8:30 in the evening. As I've walked into the house, not only is every light on, but the kids, I think we had 3 of them at the time, the kids were running around, just going nuts. They were fighting. The house was a mess. There were dishes in the sink. Everything was not as it should be, quote unquote. And I know that it's really tempting as a breadwinner or as the person who's out slaying the wild beasts for dinner or whatever it is that we do. It's really tempting to say, what have you been doing all day? But because I'd done 4 years of psychology by then, I kind of knew that was not going to be the best question to ask.
Good call, Dad.
Smart.
Good call.
He's learnt well. Yeah.
But so I didn't actually let him say anything. He walked in the door and
Kylie glared at me.
I just looked at him and I said, you need to take these kids now and I need to go.
Yep.
So Kylie walked out of the kitchen into the bedroom, closed the door with some emphasis. and I remember standing there and going, moment of truth, buddy. What are you going to do now? So I walked over to the kids, and they were not easily softened. They were pretty hyped up. But within about 90 seconds, the kids were calm and quiet and peaceful. And I reckon about 5 minutes later, they were in bed and asleep. Like, I just nailed it, Ali. I nailed it because I came in, like, our emotions, whether we're talking about a couple relationship or with our kids, our emotions are contagious. And kids will catch our chaos and they'll catch our cranky and they'll catch our crazy, but they'll also catch our calm.
Absolutely.
And I knew in that moment that I had to be calm. I just had to be so level. The other thing that I talk about all the time when I'm talking to parents about this stuff is that high emotions equals low intelligence. Like, the more emotional we are, you've probably had this even with each other. Have you ever noticed that the angrier you are, the more right you are?
Well, yes, and that's been part of me, is trying to giving up the need to be right and catching myself on that need to be right. It doesn't work.
Yeah. So I just knew in that moment, if I caught what Kylie and the kids had, the night was going to go downhill really, really fast.
Yep.
And so I kept it level and balanced. I kept my intelligence in my head rather than sending it out the window. Within a few minutes, the kids were down, and then I just set about cleaning up the kitchen, and I figured I'll have dinner at 11 o'clock tonight. Whatever, I'll deal with it. And I knew that Kylie had a lousy day. After about maybe 30 or 40 minutes of doing the best that I could in the house, I went into the bedroom, and instead of saying, well, I've done this and I've done this, look at me, aren't I noble? And instead of saying, I can't believe what happened tonight, and launching into either police or prosecutor or preacher mode, I remember saying to Kylie something along the lines of, seems like you had a really tough day today. And that was about it. I said, do you feel like talking about it? And I think at that point, Kylie burst into tears.
We're crying now. Wow, what a simple thing to say. But so powerful, so meaningful. Yeah.
And I guess for me, sitting in the bedroom, at the time, our second oldest, she was 2, and she was a really emotionally needy child, and she pretty much cried all day. She was at my feet all day, and I just took every bit of, kind of energy and self-restraint to not hurt her, because I just wanted the noise to stop.
Yeah.
And so when he walked in, it was like, you need to take them, because I can't do this anymore. And when I went into the bedroom and I closed the door, and I just obviously listened to the chaos die in the house, I overheard him literally get down to my 2-year-old's level and just say to her, "You've had a hard day." And she burst into tears, gave him a big cuddle, and everything calmed down. Yeah. And in my head at that time, it was like, are you telling me all I had to do was tell her that she was having a hard day and everything would have stopped? But in the moment, it was so overwhelming, and
Absolutely.
I felt, completely helpless to know how to make it right, because nothing I was doing was making it right.
Yeah.
And so that was the first time I kind of realised that clearly there was something in the things that he was learning, and there was a need for me to sit up and actually listen.
You don't need a license to become a parent. Do you think we should have to have a license to become a parent?
No, I don't think you should have a license.
Why is that? We've never been asked that question before.
We haven't. You've stumped me.
So you resist it, but you're not sure why?
What I love about family life in general is that there is just so much to learn, and it's only through actually living that process that we learn. So no amount of training actually prepares you for what it's like to live with someone 24/7. No amount of training helps you prepare for this amazing miracle that lands in your lap after you've carried them inside you for nearly 10 months. And you can tell me what I need to do, and you can give me all of the resources, but at the end of the day, it's not until I'm actually in that moment and I'm holding that baby that I then start to learn what it is to be a mother, or what it is to be a wife.
I love that answer.
Yeah.
I would say no as well, but for totally different reasons. But now you've set me off on a different course. So my reasons for no are that it would turn into a money-making thing for universities, and and there would be this push for everyone to have this particular parenting process, and the reality is that there is no one size fits all.
Yeah.
We know what good parenting and good relationship principles are, but there's so many things that we just can't be prepared for. So I would actually say no. But just thinking about what you're saying, something that I've really been thinking about a lot lately is what the product of parenting is, the product or the outcome of the parenting process. is not actually the child, it's the parent. See, the better you get at parenting, the better you become as a person.
Agreed.
As you become a better parent, you become more compassionate, you become more patient, you become more long-suffering, you become more forbearing, you become more loving and charitable and understanding and forgiving. You stop worrying about what the script is. You stop worrying about what the habits are, and you develop a different heart. And that's something that does not happen the day the baby arrives. It doesn't happen when you've got a toddler. In our experience, I mean, our eldest is moved out and married now as well, and we're only just starting to get our heads around it now after more than 20 years of child rearing. But it changes you day by day by day if you get your heart right. And I think that parenting is about heart, not about habit. Therefore, teaching skills is helpful, but you can't teach heart like you teach skills.
Yeah. Look, a lot of us parents, we are tired. And I think this must be a big question and a common question that comes up about intimacy between, mum and dad, or mum and mum, or dad and dad, whoever is raising the family. And intimacy does tend to wane. And you're outspoken about this. So give us some tips about how do you keep the flame alive? How do you keep the intimacy going? What have you guys been able to do that, you talk about you're still crazy, madly in love with each other, which is just delightful. So give us some tips out there.
The thing that stands out to me the most when you ask me that question is every day Justin and I make an intentional decision to choose each other. And
we've heard you guys mention that. So
Yep.
we know that that's a big thing for you as well. And we've been super intentional about that.
And as such, even though each of us, for totally different reasons, live very busy and full lives, we make a point of making time for each other. Like, that is a really intentional part of our journey.
I'm really intentional about with Kylie, and I'm giving myself a pat on the back here. Please forgive me for this, but I really want to share it because it highlights, I think, a theme that's run through some of our conversation. Is every single day I'll look at Kylie and I will literally say the words, "You have my heart." And that's an everyday thing, because what I want to do is reaffirm to Kylie and to myself. Like, you do that tomorrow for the first time and it doesn't really change much. And you do it for a week and it doesn't really change much. But the compound effect of doing that every single day, day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out for 20 years or 30 years, Kylie has my heart. And when you feel that way about somebody, you want to share everything with them. We've got a couple of fun rules, like when we walk past each other in any context, we must touch. So even if it's a squeeze of the elbow or a stroke across the shoulder or a quick kiss or a squeeze of the bum or something like that, we've made a commitment to touch. And the reason for that is to acknowledge, hey, I see you. You're a person. I know I'm in a hurry to get to the office. I know I'm rushing out the door to run the kids here or there. But
or I'm on a phone call, or like
all that stuff.
It doesn't take any effort to just, acknowledge one another, even if you don't have time to be with each other.
I love what you're saying, and I think it's really important, especially as relationships grow longer. There is one thing I do want to ask you about: building resilience in kids, because you often hear a lot today where people talk about how soft children are, and they're weak. They don't understand hardship, and people are looking for hacks. They're looking for shortcuts and things. But I don't know that there are hacks or shortcuts in this topic of building resilience in our kids.
I want to share a quote from another parenting author who has just said this so beautifully. Elle Noss said, "It's not our job to toughen our children up to face a cruel and heartless world. It's our job to raise children who will make the world a little less cruel and heartless." The idea that our kids are soft and that's a bad thing, I think is actually quite damaging.
Yeah.
And this idea that we've got to tell our kids to toughen up, princess, and drink some concrete and harden up, it's damaging. It's unfair, it's unkind, and I don't think that it appeals to the very best in them or in us. It's true that they do need to push through hard things. We've got a saying in our house. So I'm a cyclist and I used to ride competitively. And if I want to get strong cycling, I'll say to the kids, do I ride uphill or downhill? And the kids are like, "You've got to ride uphill, Dad." And I say, "Right, so you've got to love the hills because the hills make you strong." And when you get to the top of the hill, there's this incredible view from the top, and then you get to enjoy the ride down the other side anyway. And so we really work hard on helping our kids to love the hills because you've got to love the hills. But the idea of resilience, what it actually means is that you're strengthened through adversity. People talk about bouncing back. No one bounces back from adversity. Adversity changes you. You don't bounce back to who you were or where you were. Adversity changes you. We were so compelled as we listened to your podcast about your early challenges in your marriage when you went through one of the hardest things that a married couple can go through. And there's no way that you could say, "Oh yeah, we bounced back."
Mm-hmm.
No.
You're going to say, no, we changed. But hopefully we adapted positively. We became more functional. We made ourselves better people as a result of it. And that's what you do with your kids. So the metaphor that I use for building resilience in kids is pretty simple. When you're on a balance beam, imagine life is that balance beam. Some kids, as they're walking across the balance beam, it looks like they're going to fall off, and they do, and their parents say, "Get back up. Stop being such a sook. Have a go, you mug." And that real sort of toughen up princess mentality. The research is really clear. That makes kids feel unworthy. It makes them feel unloved. It makes them feel anything but resilient.
Mm-hmm.
When they don't feel that they've got the support, they don't feel like they can go on. What's the point? Conversely, at the other end of the continuum, there are these parents who see their child start to tip off the balance beam, and they jump up there and they grab their child in their arms and they say, "Don't worry, sweetheart, I'll carry you across." But you can't carry your kids across the balance beam of life. So the perfect way to accomplish resilience building in your kids is when you see them start to tip, you put your hand up on their leg and say, "I'm right beside you. Lean on me for a sec. Take a breath. Okay, now I can't walk across this balance beam with you, but I am beside you. I'm going to let go. You got to take the next step though. You're the one that's got to do the walking. So when I let go, what are you going to do? How are you going to take that step? Let's figure it out now. Okay, off you go." The idea there is that we do not do it for our kids, but we support them every step of the way until they're able to do it confidently and competently on their own. That way we're there, we're building their competence, we're building their sense of autonomy, we're building a sense of relatedness. These are the basic psychological needs that help them to flourish and be motivated and have well-being. And I think that's the really small snapshot for how you create resilience in your kids.
We do a 2-minute shower. Basically, it's keep your answers short. Or I'll start off. We've got 9 questions for you both.
Justin can help you with that.
I'll do my best.
Justin's very succinct. Here we go. Question 1. What do people get wrong about you?
My confidence leads some people to think that I can be arrogant at times. Anyone who knows me well would not agree with that. But yeah, I'm pretty confident, and sometimes that's misinterpreted. I don't think anyone gets you wrong ever.
I'm trying to think. Maybe that I'm more confident than I am? I don't know.
Okay. Ellie, 2.
What do you think is your own best quality about yourself?
I love people and I love helping people. If there is a way that I can make somebody's life better for having been in my space, then I want to do that.
Right.
Yeah, can I talk about Kylie's best quality instead of mine?
Yeah, that's question 3. But I actually liked it when you said before, I'm going to give myself a pat on the back. Because I don't think we do that enough in Australia with men. It's somehow frowned upon that you can't actually say, "I'm really proud of myself for doing this." But I think we need to do that. So, I mean, you can answer what Kylie's best quality is, but what do you think yours is, though, as well?
I keep on trying. I truly, genuinely want to be an outstandingly good human being. And I have a long, long, long way to go. But I really want to be a great husband, a great dad, a great friend, a great contributor to our world. And that intention might be a quality that I could say I'm grateful for and that I strive to develop.
Great answer. Okay, so what's Kylie's best quality then?
Kylie's best quality is her out-and-out goodness. I've come into contact with a bajillion people throughout my life in so many different areas, and I just have absolute, unquestioned admiration for Kylie's character. she's a person of integrity. She's a person of just such goodness and such desire to make a difference in other people's lives. And I'm consistently grateful and in awe of that characteristic.
Kylie, what would you say? Justin's best quality.
I don't know too many people who literally leave everything behind because they want to be a better dad. But that's literally what he did. He recognised that there was a lack in himself and has literally devoted his life to being better as a husband and as a father. And every day he's intentional about doing that.
Oh, you two, I tell you.
It's a...
We've just cried more than ever in this podcast than any other podcast.
Keep it going, honey.
Okay.
Keep it going. Beautiful.
It's a long shower, by the way.
Yeah.
You know what? F the 2 minute shower.
Yeah,
the answers are too good. We're in it for the long run now. What's your favourite catchphrase? Do you have a favourite catchphrase?
Yeah, probably attitude is everything. I say that a lot, and you've got to love the hills. They're kind of interlinked, aren't they?
Yep.
Is there anything else that I say? I reckon they're the main ones.
I don't know if I have a catchphrase.
Really?
You're going to say,
Yeah.
I get in trouble all the time on the podcast because I have a crutch, clearly, and I say, all the time. But
No, you don't get in trouble.
don't
Come on,
know.
don't be like that.
I don't know.
Have you got a
I don't have
Have you got a
a phrase.
catchphrase? I can't think of one.
No.
Just when you get excited, woohoo!
What are you reading, Kylie?
At the moment,
Yes. Great question. I love that question. What are you reading, huh?
at the moment, I am reading 10 Things That Every Parent Needs to Know
By?
by Justin Coulson.
Who is that?
Sorry,
I've
by
never heard of
Dr.
him.
Justin Coulson.
The context for that, though, is that we have a Happy Families membership, and I'm not sharing this to plug, I'm just as context, have a Happy Families membership, and once every school term, we go through one of my books as book club. And so Kylie runs book club in the membership, and therefore Kylie has to read the book.
And the only reason I run it, guys, is because I haven't read them. And I think that this was his way of making sure I did actually read them.
Does he pay you well for that?
He does. He does.
Yeah.
How about you, Justin? What do you read for? Do you read stuff for laughs or yaks or
if you
getting
could
away
see-
from the psychology? Or
No, I just truly, I live and breathe it. Like, I don't do this for a living. I do this for my life.
Right.
This is who I am. And if you could see my bedside table right now, we have shelves
I
in our
can't vacuum on his side of the bed.
we have shelves in our bedside tables because in fact, I just ordered 8 more books yesterday.
last question. One word, and you can do one word, hopefully, to describe each other in one word.
Intense.
Intense. Okay.
Well, I'm not going to say calming, although I wish that I could. I'm going to say, I think I've already mentioned this anyway, but just one word. Okay, sorry. Goodness.
Goodness.
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Great balls of fire. How good are you two? Thank you, Dr. Justin and Kylie Coulson, for coming on.
One quote that we read about you, this is something that came through on our email. It says, "We are utterly, completely, and unquestionably, absolutely, deeply crazy about one another still, after nearly 23 years." That's a quote from the both of you. And our wish is that we all felt that way about our partners and that it only gets stronger for both of you, because I think we might be completely and absolutely deeply crazy about the both of you after this talk.
Yeah.
So
Thanks
thank you so much for coming in. It was just so delightful.
Thank you, guys. That was a hugely informative and heartfelt chat.
It was.
Feel splayed open.
Do you?
I do,
Yeah.
actually. I love that.
I feel like that happens when you know how it's infectious when you meet someone or people who are so open and vulnerable and loving as Kylie and Justin are. To me, it it opens me up more as a person. I mean, like I said, I've not cried that much in a podcast, in any of our podcasts. That was so beautiful.
I loved the analogies. I loved that one, love the hills.
I knew you'd love that.
I like bike riding.
Yeah, I know.
But to actually embrace the difficult times, embrace those things, because that is what makes us stronger. Yeah, just a fabulous couple. Remember, we have our Facebook room there, separate bathrooms. You can join that. You can follow Al at Alison Daddo.
Ali Daddo.
Oh, Ali Daddo. And I'm at Cameron Daddo.
Yeah.
So we usually do our posts there as well.
Yeah, always DM us on that as well.
We'll be back with more later.
Thanks so much for listening.